On that night when the rain never stopped, the streets of London were silent until the sirens drowned out the echo of that fateful crash. The sky seemed to be crying. A car, turned into a pile of metal, lay quietly in the middle of the burned asphalt. This was no ordinary car accident. This was the moment that changed the life of action movie star Jason Statham forever. Jason had done something rare that day with his son, Jack Oscar Statham. Simply spend time together as father and son. They had planned a peaceful drive out to the countryside in one of his classic cars from his collection. Jack, still very young, had inherited his father's passion for speed and cars. Jason thought everything was safe. But fate had its own plan. A truck coming from the opposite direction lost control on the slippery road. Jason made a swift maneuver, but he couldn't avoid the crash. In an instant, their lives were turned upside down. The front of the car was completely crushed, and before losing consciousness, Jason heard his son scream, "Dad!" When he woke up, he was staring at the hospital ceiling. Machines, wires, and people in white coats surrounded him. And his first question was, "Where's my son? How's Jack?" The answer came slowly. Silence, in that heavy moment, slowly sank into Jason. Finally, a doctor came and, looking into his eyes, spoke carefully. "He's alive, but in critical condition." Jason's heart seemed to stop at that moment. He had lived with danger for years, but he had never been as scared as he was in that moment. In the movies, there was always a winner in the end. But this film wasn't under his control. Jack was fighting for his life in the intensive care unit. His ribs were broken, his lung was damaged, his left leg was severely injured. Even though Jason couldn't get out of bed, he wanted to come to his son's room every day. Walking slowly through the corridor, tears streamed down his face as he watched Jack through the glass. This was the real father behind the tough exterior. He thought back to the past. The day they had their first walk together, the times they ran along the beach, the moment Jack first said "Dad," and how it made his heart flutter. And now, Jack lay motionless in a bed, fighting for his life. Jason blamed himself. "Maybe I should have taken that trip another day," he thought to himself. But time didn't reverse regrets. Each day in the hospital felt like a lifetime. Jason refused to give interviews to the press, even distanced himself from his manager. He had only one goal: to hold his son's hand again, to hear him say, "I'm okay, Dad." And one morning came the miraculous news. Jack had opened his eyes. He couldn't speak yet, but he was conscious. When Jason entered his room, he quietly sat by his bedside. Jack recognized him with his eyes and barely moved his lips. "Dad, you're here." Jason leaned down, took his son's hand, and with a trembling voice, only said, "I never left, son. I've always been here." This accident became the biggest test of Jason Statham's life. He proved that he was not just an action star, but also a father, and that the greatest heroism was not on the screen, but in real life. To help his son walk again, he joined him in physiotherapy, did exercises, and gave him moral support. Every step Jack took was a victory written in Jason's heart. Today, Jason Statham's face is more serious than ever, but his gaze is softer. He now lives a simple life away from the cameras with his son Jack, and he often repeats this sentence: "The greatest film of my life, starting over with my son."